Hey folks, this is Rich and you're with South Florida Beekeeping with Rich. South Florida is right. This is being filmed on New Year's Day, January 1st, 2023. The temperature is 84 degrees, according to my thermometer over there. Fort Lauderdale's official temperature is 83. Last week I came out to do a check. I've done a video before about reducing box size. Hive number 3 over there particularly had some beautiful prepared frames of comb that were not being sufficiently protected by the bees because the colony was dwindling too much. And so I take those frames out because drawn comb is pure gold. So I take those drawn frames out. I put a dummy board in to mark the end of the colony, as it were, and I drop empty frames in behind that just in case I don't catch them in time and they start getting an urge to draw a new comb or something. There's something for them to draw on other than the box above them. So last week I came in, I checked them, I manipulated one more comb frame over. I came over here, checked this one, and they had plenty of bees right out to the last comb on it. I took a quick peek to confirm that most of the brood was over on this side, rather than in the middle, which would explain that a little bit more. That was fine. Did the same thing over here. Both of these had plenty of bees to cover all the prepared empty comb, so I didn't do anything further. Then 2 days ago, Christmas Eve, I came out here and there was a huge orientation flight going on outside this hive. Only problem is that flight was happening at 10 o'clock in the morning. And our orientation flights are really early, would be 2:30 in the afternoon. Usually I come out around 3 o'clock to see how things are going, because between 3 and 4 is when orientation flights for newbies usually leave. Well, 10 o'clock in the morning, big orientation flight. Came out this morning at 10 o'clock in the morning to see how that was going. I'm sorry, yesterday morning I came out and checked at 10 o'clock, big orientation flight over here again. Came out this morning, things were about average here, little orientation flight going on here. And I decided, you know what? It's just possible that there could be an early January swarm situation going on. I think I better explore this a little bit more. Now, mind you, remember, we're down at one box, just like we are over there on both of these this morning. So I came out, and there is a whole lot of capped brood across at least 9 frames in here, and plenty of stores. So I went in and I pulled some of my drawn comb that's been preserved. I came out, I pulled 4 frames of brood up from below and put them in a top box on top. And then I put drawn comb on both sides of that. So bees will come up through and they'll start doing it. Where the comb was all coming from was throughout those 2 bottom boxes, and I checkerboarded drawn frames of comb to fill all that back in over on this side. So it's all 8 frames up here are their own resources from the bottom box, and down here on the bottom all the way across there's a checkerboarding of empty combs, but not in the brood. The brood is tight in one area, top and bottom, and then axillary to that, in other words, like there's brood, 1 frame of honey or nectar and pollen, and then I'd start checkerboarding from there. And this one did that all the way across, but in one box. Now, mind you, there's no way to do that in both boxes. So this is actually a sealed off box, and that's what I'm going to show you over here. So on this one, there wasn't as much brood. The brood is still all down in the bottom box, but a bunch of their frames have been set up over there. I just want to show you, using this double box system, what that looks like. These are all straight up empty frames because there's nothing in this box. I'm going to show you that what I do is cut a piece of snipe sign, political sign, whatever, to the proper size. And I always tape the edges because this is the same stuff you use on the bottom boards, that you pull out. And I'm forever finding wax moth larvae in the edges of those things. So this seals off this box, and there's no brood from here over. It's all honey, and it's all checkerboarded now. This goes back on top. And some of you might say, hey, Rich, why don't you do the system where you put one box straddling the middle of this and cover both sides? I could, but our rainstorms down here are torrential, and I like my bees to have a nice dry box. This setup is set up in such a way that no matter what happens in the way of rain, we have a dry box there. So that's where we stand. I just wanted to show you how I do that, because that's what I've been out here for the last couple hours doing, was sorting all those out, setting them up. Oh, yeah, the other thing I should mention over here is that I do have a queen excluder here. And am I 100% sure the queen's under there? No, I'm not. But you know what? A week from now I will be, because there'll either be a whole lot of young eggs and larvae in here, or they'll be down below. Saves me a lot of effort. And, I might even just go ahead and do an early split if that ends up being the case. Over here, I'm not going to bother to take it off or anything, but as I said, there's a dummy board. I don't use follower boards. Follower boards would be useless for me, because the idea of a follower board as opposed to a dummy board is that follower boards prevent the bees from getting on the other side. Well, because I use slatted racks, they can always get on the other side. So I just use dummy boards to kind of define the edge of the hive. So you have a dummy board halfway across here, and I will check this hive next week and see if it's really starting to push more outwards and if it's ready for boxes on top. I have never put a second set of boxes on these hives before, at the earliest, the last week in January. Last week in January, first week in February is when I expect to put these boxes on. I'm absolutely astonished that I'm doing this today, but it just seems like the most likely thing to do. Some of the brood in this box was drone brood. No drones yet. There's not a single drone flying around. There's not a single drone, walking around, but there's capped drone brood in here. And, the swarm impulse starts after the first hatching of brood, when the drones are about 2 weeks old is when bees start evaluating things and deciding whether or not they want to swarm. So I'm getting ahead of them here, giving them plenty of space to reach out into at this point, rather than to get behind the curve here, wait too long, and they start their swarm impulse, at which point it's kind of difficult to prevent it. That's not all bad, because I have 3-frame hives that if I open up a hive and I see a bunch of swarm cells, I don't just destroy them. I just pop them into other hives, put frames of honey and resources in there, shake extra bees into them, which effectively slows down the swarm impulse on the parent hive. And I use the drone cells to make new colonies from. So it works either way. I mean, I'm not completely disappointed, but I'd rather not have to make extra colonies if I can prevent the swarm impulse to start with. My wife wants to ask a question.
You have a queen excluder over here.
Uh-huh.
I assume that there's no drone comb in the top box?
Yeah, there's going to be some drone comb in the top box. You're quite right. And so you're right. I need to go over to the box over here sometime in the next couple of days, and I need to get a shim. Oh, well. Actually, do I need to? Hang on a second. Let me see if this one has a rotating disc on it. Yep, it does. Yeah, I can I can turn the rotating disc on this one. It just happens to be on the other side. I can turn that rotating disc and they can get out. Alternate to that, if there hadn't been one, then I would simply have to grab one of these shims that has a exit on it and slip that in there. Don't like using them because, you know, it's burr comb and such that you have to clean up. But yeah, I can rotate that disc around to the to this position here, and the drone will be able to get out when they hatch. Now, if those weren't such nice bees, I might let those drones stay up there and die. But this is a lovely hive of bees. They don't make nearly as much propolis as the others. Still good propolis makers, but they don't make nearly the mess that these other two do. And I was thinking to myself, you know, if I wanted to make new queens for these other hives this spring, I'd want to make them from this one because I want to keep with my South Florida feral stock. But if I can select for a little less propolis, not the way the northern bees are, but a little less propolis, that would be a good one to do it from. That's about it. No, you know, that's going to be a different video. I'll talk about that some other time. So at any rate, it's New Year's Day. Happy New Year, everybody. It looks like the beekeeping year in South Florida is going to be starting a few days earlier than usual. Because I normally consider that the third week in January is when I need to know that I've got all my ducks in a row and that I need to do all my manipulations between the third week in January and the first week in February if I'm going to stay ahead of them. But this actually was the beginning of that process. So, and you know what? Thank you for that, reminding me of that. I completely forgot because it was on my mind to do at the end of the month. I wanted to put a regular inner cover in this position instead of a queen excluder because I figured well, I don't want to do that right now. No, I want to do that between the brood box and the honey super. And right now I've got brood at top and bottom right here because I wanted to keep them over each other to keep them warm. I don't want to do that right now. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up. That's still an experiment I want to do this spring, but I'll probably do it at the end of January. So as I was saying, Happy New Year. This is South Florida Beekeeping with Rich, and it looks like the beekeeping year is underway, so you guys better get out there and get busy. Have a great day. Bye-bye.